to you all. We truly appreciate you being here. Thank you for coming out. This is part of a series we've had with the Workforce Training Center in the city, coordinating this series with Lori Vincent. This is really the Lori and Andy show, but I just wanted to welcome you all and say thank you again. We wanted to say thank you also to the St. David's Foundation, because this is part of what Andy's doing for his network weaving program, and so they are providing lunch for us today. And so thank you, St. David's Foundation, for that. And of course, thank you to the Workforce Training Center and the city for providing Lori Vincent for the series that she's been working on. And today is our Telling Your Story marketing program. What we're hopeful for is that this is it's still in one of the first early programs, and we're going to try to revisit it once we get closer to a wrap up, so that we can start all the things that we've learned. Now we kind of have a sense of telling our story. These are the things now that we're learning about other things, or the other kinds of experiences and information that Lori will bring us, and that at the end of this whole series, we'll have a better idea of how to move forward with our what we want to do to tell our story. So that's all I wanted to say. If you have any questions, this is always open. You can open door at my office if you want to talk about things. So I'm going to put that out there as well. And I'm going to leave it to Lori and Andy to start the program. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
This is the right spot, isn't it? Am I on?
Yes, you are in the right spot.
Okay, awesome. Hi, folks. So this is an economic development thing, but as the engagement coordinator, when I was talking to Lori, I was like, hey, I've got this really cool facilitators technique that we use in the net weaving circles, and I think it really applies to this, because we're talking about storytelling, which is one of the things that I'm supposed to help with, and this is the story of the business of Smithville. But before I can get into that, I've got two stories that I want to share with you all, and this is how the format works. It's about telling our individual stories. The story of each individual here is the story of self. And everyone, we've had one of these meetings before, and everybody has their own story about how business, or their ideas of what business could be in Smithville. And they're fascinating stories, but everyone walks away with that, their own story. And we don't walk away at the next level, which is the story of us. Collectively, what have we got to say as a group, as a business group in Smithville, which leads us to the third step, the story of now. Now that we are collectively together, what do we do? What is the sense of opportunity that we feel we could go forward with? And so to explain that a little bit on a much more raw, deep level, me as a kid, when I was growing up in the Valley, Westlaco, Texas, I had to work at my mother's store as a teenager because I wanted money. And so I was washing the windows at their clothing store, Brand X clothing store, Westlaco, Texas, downtown, Main Street, right? Giant windows all across the front. And I hated the job, but I wanted money. And so I would go out there and I would wash the windows every weekend. And I got to see something after a while. I watched all the business owners or the managers come out of their stores. And we're talking like back in the 70s, y'all. And they would come out either with a push broom or with a big straw broom, and kind of like shifts, you know? Somebody would come out and they would sweep their part of the sidewalk, and then they go back inside their store, and then somebody else would come out and they would sweep their part of the sidewalk. And you would watch this happen, and sometimes they would come out simultaneously and they would wave at each other, they'd talk for a while, and they would sweep their sidewalk. And there was no rule, there was nothing that told them to do that, but they all knew that our downtown had a reputation. And collectively, they had a story that it was their job to maintain, so that when people came downtown, they knew what to expect in Westlaco. And see, here's the reason why. We had Highway 83 and we had Business 83, right? It was 183. And some of the towns, that highway went right through the downtown, so it was dirty. But when you went to Westlaco, it was clean, because they always went out there to do that, right? So each of us had our own story. In my own little way, as a teenager, I was there to make money, just like each owner was there to make money. That was one of the reasons we're there. But collectively, I felt like I then belonged to that group. I started going out there and I would sweep my mom's, the front of the building, and I would do the squeegee stuff too, right? And then somebody would come through and they would sweep it over to the down the drain, down the edge of the sidewalk there. And so I understood that if I wanted to be part of the group, I had to do something with the group. I cannot just think about myself and my own interests. It becomes more than me. And so that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to collect businesses together and ask you all, yes, what is your own story? You've got papers in front of you that we've given each of you, kind of like a little worksheet, asking you questions about, well, where do you stand as an individual, so that we can then start talking together collectively as a group. What is the us story, so that then we can push forward into the next level. And it's not easy. So I've got a second story for you all that I just heard recently on a podcast. And this story had to do with baking goods. Back in the 30s, that's when companies started inventing the boxed flour mixes to make cakes and breads and things like that. And they couldn't sell it for about 20 years because housewives kept saying, no, I'll make my own, I'm good. And there was nothing, they surveyed them, there was nothing wrong with the quality of what they were doing. Everybody liked it, they thought it was decent. Some of them even thought it was just as good as what they were making at home. But they thought that they were cheating. They thought that, well, this isn't really doing something from home if you're just getting it out of a box. And so the companies, here's where they made it collective. They made it easier for everyone. And they said, you know what? We're going to take out the powdered eggs and we're going to change the instructions. And now the radio jingle said, all you have to do is add your own farm fresh eggs, because everyone knows the best cakes are made with fresh eggs. And just like that, in the 1950s, buying your baked goods in a box, just a ready-made mix, it became a hit. Okay? The companies made it easier for people to say, yes, I'm willing to do that. And that's where we are, I think, at Smithville. We've got a lot of individual stories. We've got the ingredients, but we haven't quite figured out how to make people want to come here, right? That's that one missing part that we got to make it easier for them. So the story of self, leading to the story of us, and then leading us to that opportunity, the story of now. Now, what are we going to do? Okay? I keep that in mind, and then Laura's going to take over from this part, right, Lori? Okay.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Some of you I've already met before. It's been my privilege to already have had a couple of meetings with the community. It's been a joy to work with Jill and the City of Smithville and Andy and the Workforce Center. It's been great, and we're going to be working on various topics for the next several months. So thank you for being here. And today we are talking about storytelling and what is your story and how can we tell your story. So I've been in economic development for 32 years, and I work with communities all over the country. And people often ask me, well, what's so great about that community? Or what do they have that we don't have? Or why, tell me a successful community our size and what are they doing? They want to emulate them. And I have to tell you, I'll give my husband and I'll use us as an example. We can live anywhere, and we happen to be empty nesting down in the Austin area. We live in Cedar Park. We are from the Texas Panhandle, north of Amarillo. I'm from Dalhart, Texas. He's from Stratford, Texas. Sure, you may have never heard of those communities. They're also small communities, and that we raised our daughter in Stratford, and now that in fact we just married her last week. She lives in Wisconsin now. That's why I'm tan. I've been to Mexico for a week. So we just sold our house in Stratford and had a wedding all at the same time. But anyway, and now here we are, kind of like gypsies, can live anywhere we want. And after working in 19 other states over the last 6 years, and working in other states really for my whole career, now for the first time ever, my husband and I are like, well, we have no ties. She's 22 hours away. We have not yet made the commitment to live in Wisconsin in the winter time. So we like, well, what do we do? And what are we looking for where we live? And I've been taking prospects to different communities throughout my whole career. And I can tell you the discussions that take place in the vehicles when I pick up prospects from airports and then drive them to different communities to look at potential sites is also a very interesting conversation about why would we choose here over this? what makes them different? What's so special about this? What makes this community different from this one when you're looking at exactly the same site criteria? And as I've said before, people don't know what they don't know. We just don't know. And in fact, just this weekend, I was with a group of girlfriends, many of my counterparts went to the movie for Mother's Day weekend, and we were just talking about where we were working and what we were doing this week, and I just happened to say, well, I'm going to be in Smithville on Tuesday, and then Laurel, Mississippi on Wednesday and Thursday. And they were like, oh, you're going to Laurel? And I said, yeah, but I'm going to Smithville first. And they live in Austin. And they go, where is Smithville? And I just said, well, it's this charming community. And so I started telling them about you. And they said, oh, I think I've been by there, or I've seen the sign on my way to Round Top. Or some of them have said, I really haven't gone beyond Bastrop. And it broke my heart, and immediately, I went into my big campaign about Smithville. And it was all very innocent. They were like, oh, well, I'll have to go check it out, because they didn't know. They didn't know, and I said, yes, you absolutely have to. You do not go to Round Top again without stopping in Smithville. And we talked about the movie being filmed here. We talked about your downtown and the size and where you were located and the river. That was one conversation, y'all. Just one. That just happened to take place. And it just validated how important it is to begin to tell your story to the outside world. You have one. And in fact, at the last time we all gathered, stories, Andy and I talked about it. Man, the stories were just coming to mind, and people are going, well, I remember this, and we have this. And it's all just a matter of getting that all gelled into one really great, positive marketing campaign that begins to show you in your very best light, because you have assets. We're going to talk about those today a little bit, but and we also want to remind you that there's internal marketing and there's external marketing. So if you are only doing external marketing, but your community is not the storytellers, you're not even believing I promise you, Andy and I can both, and marketing, and we can put together any kind of great marketing campaign for you. That is not hard. As an economic developer, I can tell you right now, I can give you a really great economic development marketing campaign based on the research I've done on your community. But that wouldn't be me telling the story of Smithville about your heart and your soul and your people and your values and your activities and your events and your history. All of those things, that's the icing on the cake. That is what sets you apart from everybody else. And you have to believe that internally before you can begin to really passionately tell that story externally. And so, an economic development website may talk about workforce, and it may talk about available sites and real estate and quality of life, and you need that. That's all very, very important. But if you had the opportunity to spend 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes with somebody, and they said, well, why should I live in Smithville? Why do you live here? Why should I bring my business here? Why should I come for the weekend? We all need to become storytellers for that reason. And the more that you are saying the same thing, even better. So a couple of case studies. I think I've probably mentioned this before, but I actually knew, he was just a counterpart of mine 30 years ago, who started the campaign for Fredericksburg, Texas. And he was running for city council as a college classmate of mine, and sort of in economic development, but more into real estate, but was running for city council. And it was at a time when they were really at a crossroads, because Fredericksburg is not in a location for industry. It's mostly, trees. They don't have, they're just not in a place where a lot of us would have the ability to do both, take advantage of tourism and industry, or business development. And they said they finally, after 10, 15, 20 years of kind of frustrating and feeling like they were spinning their wheels, they go, we have to control our own destiny. And they began this dream of putting together what they knew that Fredericksburg could be once everybody got on the same page. Two things had to happen. They all had to buy into the vision, and then they had to commit to make the investment to get there. And they developed a 25-year plan, which that 25-year plan just ended right before the pandemic. Now they're on a second 25-year plan, kind of more of a maintenance plan. But it just goes to show you these things don't happen through osmosis. They don't happen by themselves. A lot of growth and a lot of great things happen organically. And when they do, you want to be ready to maximize those opportunities. But the most successful communities who have been able to reach their potential for residents, for business, for tourism, for activity, for young people to move in, for the schools to thrive, and for your downtown to be dynamic and vibrant are the ones who have collectively all come together to tell the story of what makes you different from everybody else and why you should take that exit. I saw your sign today, which I've been here, 4 times now? Today was the first time I saw your sign because it's on the other side of the highway, but I saw it, so I'm glad, because I think we were talking about it before about not having many signs. But marketing is so much more than that. And the good news is, as I was telling Andy earlier, you don't have bad news out there. That's great, because some communities I go into, it's like we're already starting with having to control perhaps negative stories or negative perception. None of that is the case with you all. It's more of there's just not much out there. There's a lot of individual things, and what is out there is good. So that's good. Like you said, that's an ingredient that's really great to work with. It's more of being invisible in some cases, or being overshadowed in others by communities. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I think this is mine. Yeah. Sorry, and we're on film too. I'm so sorry.
Trying.
I'm gonna make a joke. I would make a joke. Yeah. But anyway, so let me. I'm so sorry about that, but. I think Jill and I were talking about the campaign that Georgetown is doing now. They are involved in a very strong campaign, and I'm going to put them as a case study on the website, along with some others. I mentioned I'll be in Laurel, Mississippi this week, which many of you who watch HGTV, you know that is the hometown, and I'm holding my Stand Up Rural America event later in September there. Well, they have a great story to tell, and even without the HGTV show, they had begun to turn their community around and had a story to tell. They just got a bigger megaphone when they got the show. But they were determined. They got the show because they were already on the path of pulling everything together to begin to tell a really great story about Laurel, Mississippi. And they were in bad shape. They were they were really, really struggling. And you wouldn't know that now. And it's been probably, I would say, 12 or 13 years since they started their turnaround. But we are going to have our event there. We like to go to places where a community has a great story and is very inspiring. So I will put their case study on there. I've been working in the community of Manchester, Tennessee, which most people have not heard of, unless you've heard of the Bonnaroo Festival. If you're a country music fan, you would have heard of Manchester or been there. But if you weren't interested in that one event, most people, even in Tennessee, a state that small, is like, are you talking about Manchester, Tennessee, or Manchester, Kentucky, or... They struggle to build that identity to say, wow, we have tens of thousands of people that come to this festival every single year, but we can't capture them any other time, or we can't get them to come early or stay late. And so they have started a really great campaign this year to build their identity and to take advantage of of that exposure, even though for a very short amount of time. But everybody has a different story to tell, and what we want to do is to begin to capture content and concepts that we can help pull together that will not only put Smithville in a great light for economic development purposes, but to begin to collectively tell your story for all of the other reasons as well, to attract the housing developers, to attract residents, doctors, people in the medical field, workers who are, want to live here because of your quality of life in your schools, even though they may work somewhere else. There's just a whole variety of reasons why we want to begin to tell your story. So what we're doing today, and while y'all can keep eating or whatever, but we're going to do just some quick tabletop exercises, and because we want you to have some discussion with each other. And then we are also sending you home with a little bit of homework because we have some questions that might take a little thought. We didn't have a lot of time today. But what I'm going to do is we have 4 questions on the table topics. And I'm going to hit a buzzer, and you're going to hear it's a game show buzzer. And I want you all to talk about the first one and just talk about it. This is not a quiz, it's not a test. It is a way for you to begin to think about what are the assets in your community or in the region that you feel like can begin to be a part of your story. That's what we want to get you to start turning those wheels and thinking about what makes you special, what makes you different. And finally, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we're going to get started. We all live in great communities. I have yet to be in a community, even the one that's struggling the most, that we were not able to find really something great about it. And sometimes we had to look hard, and we had to get people, we had to remind the community itself that they were special. People still lived there for a reason, and had to reframe and begin to think differently about it. But you have to go beyond, we have good schools, we have good people, we have this, we have that. Take it a step further. Why do you have good businesses? Why do you have a great downtown? Why do you have the potential for tourism? Why? You begin to ask, because those are the stories that need to be told. Everything else is pretty baseline. Everybody else can say, everybody universally can say, we have good schools, we have good churches, we have good people. Not everybody can say, though, where you're located geographically. They can't say, well, we have this and a river, or we are in proximity to this, this, and this. Or begin to tell, what is the story of Fat Cat Cafe? What is the story of that mural across the street? What is the history of the bank that we met in last time? What is the story behind some of your longest businesses who are still here in Smithville? Those are the stories that will begin to add color to your fabric, that will begin to get people engaged in who you are. Because I work all over the country, y'all. There's nice people and great communities everywhere. But everybody is special. And what you do to make yourself different and special and unique is what will begin to become this megaphone and this magnifying glass on how cool a place it is to visit, to spend money, to spend a night, to live, to work, all of those things. So, any questions on what today we're doing the table topics? The homework you can take home. I even put an envelope where you can send it to Jill at your convenience. But what we want you to do is to be thinking today, and then we will, as Andy said, we will reconvene probably towards the end of summer, we said, and we will begin to take all your thoughts and all your assets and your enthusiasm and passion for why you live here and what you're doing here, and we will begin to say, okay, this is your fabulous story, and this is how we can begin to tell it. Does that make sense? Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, I'm getting my buzzer out, and when I get the buzzer, go to the next question, because no overthinking on this, y'all. No.
Are we doing it as a group, or are we doing it as individually?
There's one.
Okay.
I
charming guy. Charming me.
What are you saying, Stormy? What is it? Which?
Came to see me?
We did. I said Michael's about to leave early.
Are we on business development? Important assets for business.
For business. Why we develop? Business development.
I was just following you around and then this
Lots of business.
I saw Mike.
I mean, we do have a lot of opportunity.
But why do we have so many vacant buildings?
Well, I don't know if we can get into that. The timer.
But if we want to develop, if we want to have business development, then we need an answer to that. We need an idea to figure out.
How about availability on Main Street?
Yeah,
like
okay.
that.
You could, yeah, I know.
I know you do.
I don't disagree with Victoria's comment, Main Street.
Yeah.
For business.
And parking, you can park.
Can I get an extra pen for you? I'm sorry. Do you have it? Okay,
So we
perfect. Thank
decided
you so much.
accessibility,
Thank you so much.
availability on Main Street.
And the look.
And the charm. Availability on Main Street and charm.
I ran into a friend
And would
that
you call
I,
that Southern Charm or South, Texas Charm?
small town charm.
Small town, good, I like that.
Ran into a friend of mine that I grew up with in Galveston on Sunday. And talking to him and said, I've got a real estate broker. He goes, say, yeah, it's Smithville. And he said it was just like, he said it like, that's the coolest town ever. I'm like, why don't
Yeah,
I see it? Yeah. You know?
Was there a sponsorship?
How about,
I think we're very art oriented and music with the art. Yeah, I wrote that under eclectic, what do you love about living here?
but I don't think that's how we develop.
Right, but I wrote
The
eclectic.
next thing I would think is, accessibility is like open and easy for the city. If we want to come in with our business here in the city of Central, want to help.
Is it a tourism destination? Is there a tourism aspect to that at all?
Yes.
Or is it a possibility?
Well, with the tourism, I'd probably go with the river and the parks.
Well, that's what I mean.
But I think the city of Smithville being very accessible to assistant businesses. That makes it true.
But the chain make it
Very, very difficult.
Yes, like LaGrange, my God.
So I would say that like cities
New business.
could you reach as far as
city and chamber.
city tours?
Yeah, open to.
I understood what you were saying as from a location standpoint, because the highway is right there.
So we naturally volunteer supervisor. No, manual labor.
Like accessibility, and then just
He said you're
the proximity.
So it's location.
Yeah, it's location. Incredible.
We could do
Real
that
estate
for our
word.
third.
Yeah.
I think we should definitely mention her. I mean, I think it should be a good thing for someone thinking of coming to town. Like, what hoops to go to get a woman.
No other vehicles around there.
Not women business friendly. No, that's amazing. If it was, well, I mean, just business friendly.
But yeah, okay.
So city of Smithville, very business friendly. City of Smithville, business friendly.
And the chamber too.
City and
Oh,
chamber.
yeah, a lot.
So I said supportive population.
Yeah, maybe just the people.
Okay.
It's hard to attain like permanent.
Third. I guess
I put
location.
location.
Yeah, I think location, I think we have a great location. We're not too far out, not too far in.
Yeah.
We're a destination. So,
Location.
like if you wanted to ride a if you rode a motorcycle, this would be a good place to come. You know, especially with all the events we put on. Like that, the sip and shop was, I got a lot of people that, because I was at that gallery on LPAA gallery, and people were coming in. They liked the wine list, they thought that was fabulous. And a lot of them came from Austin. They saw it and came from Austin. How do you think it goes?
Really?
Here? Wow, how long ago?
And about 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
I think all of them. Are we doing them all? Are we actually?
Are we doing all the topics?
Oh, we were gonna spend like 5 or 10 minutes, but y'all can keep going. I'm gonna hit the buzzer.
Are we
and y'all
supposed to
go the
keep
next
going?
one. Yeah,
Let's hit the buzzer.
but, we're gonna.
I just want water, by the way.
The rest of ours and then we'll go to the next.
Okay.
Sorry.
So just stay with these three. Okay.
Oh, look, y'all already done two.
No, I did that
Oh,
on
you did that on your own? Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Where do they have your
Anybody else need a bottle?
No, I'm
I
good.
do.
I'm done. It's okay. I'm good.
Oh, okay, the other Lori, yeah.
She said we could go on, but, oh, they're gonna say,
Well, I think location becomes an important
Yeah, I can do
as
it.
the other houses
Yeah.
started to build.
So what do you want to do?
right.
Right now, stoplights, stop everybody,
Again?
but once
You
those.
give me a second on it because everything's shut down. But I would definitely do that. And what dressing do you want to have?
Yeah.
Ranch? Got you, my friend. I have to make his food first.
It's a coffee.
Isn't that like a 7 to 10 year plan?
What are we working on? Are we on the same topic? I did
They
on
were
my
all
own.
funded, they've all been engineered.
Well,
Okay,
I took property value, that's in residential roads. And desirable amenities like schools, medical, whatever, and then shopping, restaurants, you know.
They've done an amazing
Yeah.
job.
Those
Y'all
are my
can
three
keep going,
choices.
I know y'all are kind of going through.
Yeah.
Let's keep going through the worksheet.
Okay. And
It's nice.
guess what the appraisal would like to do?
I've heard.
1.7 million.
The empty.
Yes.
No, not.
1.7 million. 6,000. 1.7.
I mean, that's a hell of a sale.
So needless to say, my protest paper
The
went
bank
up.
building.
Went in yesterday. Last year they appraised it at 750,000. 1.7 million, Dean.
750 is what you appraised that last year?
She gets extra, the cricket, extra points.
Can you believe this?
More valuable.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures of that building, Mark, or it was stucco?
It was such an
Somebody would pull out.
I know, and have those two buildings again. Two buildings, you know.
No way.
And upstairs, it used to be a restaurant. But we have the original doors to the surgery, the original doors to the x-ray rooms, and the stands where the operating
As a
table.
group, haven't identified.
All the original tin. There's something else in there. Yeah, it was a hospital.
Not a long commute.
Now, we're talking about the bank, that old bank across from the new gallery.
Yeah.
Kitty corner to you was a hospital.
Important assets.
Yeah.
For residential growth.
So, Bonnie
Okay,
said,
I put
property
property
value.
Oh, property value.
That you want to maintain the city and keep your property values up.
I mean, I guess in comparison, they still are lower.
Right, but they, they're probably, but you know what I mean, like, and the city helps do that, like, keeping the trash down.
Well, I think now you're going to a beautiful.
Yeah, there's a historical district, maintaining that. And I put the next one, desirable amenities, like schools, but those are, hospitals,
Right.
doctors.
This is true.
And then the third one, I put shopping and restaurants and just,
I don't think we can forget schools on this one, because that's a question a lot of people have.
well, I'm a real estate agent, I can get asked about that.
You know that we have the most beautiful MRI.
Really?
I was in, it's beautiful.
And the mammogram.
On the mammogram, the 3D mammogram.
We have the same ones.
Yes, I know. And you just don't have to wait. I come for my mammogram,
Exactly.
my MRI is like, can you come tomorrow? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And the guy's cute.
So medical facilities,
Hospitals.
is schools on third?
Parks, just desire park.
Is schools our third choice?
I think so. You get a lot of assets, like schools, hospitals.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Just their desirable amenities. That's-
Yeah. People ask often about how close is it. Very lucky. That's a huge asset.
I feel like that Facebook is a squirrel. We have such access to the state parks, and then we have the Central Park. Yeah, we have the river, but I don't.
And my daughter comes, from Florida with my grandchildren, and they love that little railroad park next to it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that they're like obsessed with it.
Walkability.
Y'all, if I can have your attention
walkable
just
path.
really briefly, I just wanted to say thank you to Lori and Rob and Fat Cat for hosting. And so appreciative of y'all for your community support and for helping us out today too. So.
Thank you guys. We're always here and we appreciate everything you guys do. We're always, obviously, our doors are always open. We're not open today, but we're open today. So if we can ever do anything, reach out to us. You guys know that with her support and with the way that everything goes, we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Anything that we can do, and it doesn't even have to be on site, it can be off site. Anything we can do, please let us know. Thank you guys for everything that y'all do. We appreciate all that. Your lasagna is coming right out. All right. See, right on cue. On time.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. And Drew's one to thank too, because he is back there with us doing this. He's one of our newer staff members, and he is stepping up and doing an amazing job.
Yeah, because a lot of cities don't have that golf cart. I happen to be out here.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, in real
And I have no
estate,
problem
they
with
literally
tagging folks and doing anything like that. I just charge extra for pictures.
They actually have, what's your
I got 3
walkability
to-go
score.
boxes actually coming
And a lot of
out.
that has to do with, can you walk to restaurants? Can you hop on a bus to a restaurant or to
And you
a
go
library
shopping.
or, something like that? No, I mean, it just, it has to do with any kind of alternative.
What about the fact that I've heard, I don't know if it's true, that there's just like 40 some odd Airbnbs here? Okay, so I kind of downsized it a little bit, so isn't that kind of a promotable thing?
It is.
A lot of cities
It's
don't
lodging.
allow that.
I mean, it's lodging, so it matters.
Yes,
It really does.
and we don't really have hotels like Miami or like, so having that, so I would say the Airbnbs are a big draw here.
Oh, sorry.
Do we, so I'm with the Smithville Garden Club too, and we do a lot of, we do that tour of homes, and I've been to some of the Airbnbs because they put them on the tour homes. And they're fascinating, they're just, you know, do we promote that or not? Is that promoted in the city a lot? I don't know how many there are.
I don't know how, maybe in the tourism part.
Yeah, I would
that
say
go.
lodging.
I don't know.
Oh, I thought we had moved on to that. Sorry.
Oh,
That's what I do. I just let people talk and then I say, well, how do we focus it on the different areas? Or because, yeah.
so then workforce, do we go workforce?
Tell me again what you put for residential.
So we did the historical homes and districts, the medical facilities and schools,
I put desirable amenities, which
and the walkability, or golf cart facility.
Yeah.
golf cart friendly.
Well, they also
There's a lot of
talk, this
cities
is
don't
not
have
an
that.
auto-centric town. You know, Austin is trying to become less auto.
Okay, so we're on identify your three most important assets for workforce and talent development.
The workforce center, right? Is that pretty phenomenal?
That's for people. So that's a training center.
That's impressive, huh? Cat-like reflexes. What do you say?
The talent, the workforce, talent development,
Diversity.
workforce center.
How do we do talent development? What,
Our libraries, typically, the libraries or the assets up there in residential with.
I would think it's a desirable amenity, the library.
So that's under residential growth then?
Yeah.
Well, would you, you know, you're
I'm just
talking about
thinking
talent.
somebody moves here and they get a computer, they have a printer, they.
Yeah.
Maybe at the libraries,
Yeah.
take care of
Yeah.
Do we promote talent? We do promote the arts.
And we do, especially our school, the band program.
Right, so the arts, including music, and I do think we should promote talent.
And watch some of those kids grow up.
So do we reach out to the high school kids?
We do. They have like a robotics group, and, you know, because we have the Marine Arts Center, they come and help us to get community points or whatever. They come and do stuff for us
This is
periodically.
true, and then we've used the high school.
Right.
Like for our music festival.
Okay,
Because
there
they
you
use it
go.
for their community hours, they come and unload
So how,
chairs.
would you say that we're developing talent that way? I think as a town, we're pretty, I know that even some of the, like the Empty Bowl project that goes on, the kids come in and help with that. So charitable and, I think we're inclusive. I think we are a charitable town.
I think that's a good way of wording inclusive.
What did she say?
Inclusive with our events
Yes.
and our charities.
Thinking our network, and then when I hear what you all are talking about, makes me think of the network, in other words, having a good referral, like, you know, you may contact one organization, you may not, but you're like, oh, you should contact the department.
Yeah.
Right.
So runs FFA, I bet they can hook you up with some high school kids that you volunteer out, you know, having those good, actual network,
Right.
that's a good referral.
For sure. I agree.
Having a strong network.
We have a strong network, like she just said. It's great. Even like being here today, we have a strong network within the community. Okay, so then we can move on to tourism development.
Oh, we did that.
Yeah, I thought we were on town
So
and,
what about our infrastructure, like high-speed internet, fiber, is any of that, is that?
She did say that, she spoke.
So maybe that goes in with your library access as far as accessibility to computers.
Right.
And then, internet.
so now we should be on tourism development. We have the air,
Well, I did the,
I said lodging.
B&Bs and, Katie House, actually, and then the B&Bs, a strong chamber presence, our parks, the river.
I think we have, people are always what did Susie? Like, the restaurant options here are not
really
typical of a small town downtown. You know, I mean, it's obviously a little bit more scarce during the week, but there's something, people have a lot of options.
So the food for restaurant variety, the variety that we have.
There's a variety. I think, when I was going to go over to, not Bernie. Just south of Johnson City, but before Rains, anyway.
I know what you're saying.
Lincoln,
Yeah.
just sold a property in like in Boston. We went out to dinner there, and it's like here. You've got good restaurants there, and that is, so I think we're on par, and it is a desirable for small towns.
Variety, variety.
For tourists coming in.
So food and entertainment.
Yes.
Variety of food and entertainment. And then what about the events that are put on constantly? Wouldn't that go under tourism development? Like, we have constant revolving door of fun.
Our consistency in our events, I think is a
We're
big
dirty little fun
being
houses here.
consistent in our events and building them correctly, which is, what you've been trying to do, right?
Events is the most visited page on the website. Events is the most visited page we have on the county tourism website.
So we have,
Put that one up there.
what would we put, like, for events?
From a tourism standpoint. It's usually like straight out of business, right? Like you have what's the music thing? Like jamboree. People they really feel like they've been transported back.
Has anybody seen the movie or the video that Santa Smithfield did of Eats of Smithfield? Their work, it's fantastic, amazing. They have a little, I don't know when they're working on it, but I've seen some of it, and it's about
Who's doing it?
Will and Gino, and they're walking through town, and they filmed it, but they're putting it all together. It's got a great, did they film over at your place?
ROI on that.
Did they film at your place?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so it's really good, and the song itself has got a nice.
It'd be fun to see.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do like a debut, like at some point. Yeah, they're working on it, it's a work in progress, but, it's just, how many towns we have such a variety of talent here. And it's used, it's not wasted. We have authors, there's several authors here that are pretty well known. We have musicians that are phenomenal. We have artists. We have murals that are put up. Actually, is it the main gallery there that want to put up? I haven't. No, I tried to get on it, and then we're not tomorrow. And her and I went over the marker. Yeah, so. Hopefully we'll get more historical markers.
All right, folks, if we can just get your attention again.
Okay, so we have one more thing that we need on tourism, or do we have?
Can we get your attention again for a minute here, please?
You guys ready?
Y'all ready?
You got a nickel right yet?
Y'all ready? Okay. I have a date. All right, folks. So again, the idea here is that you were talking to each other, sharing ideas from self, and we're not quite there yet. We're not quite at the collective us, right? It takes a while to make that gel, to really understand that you're not just sharing a story with somebody else, but you're sharing a collective story. If you can sit down at a table like this and you can share everyone's story across the table, or somebody from across the room, then we're getting closer to a collective us story. I used to be a teacher a long time ago, and I had to teach. I was an English teacher, and so I would read a book to the kids, right, or with my students, but I had 6 classes. I had to read the book 6 times, or I had to read each chapter 6 times. And you know what? It didn't bother me, because with every reading, I got more and more depth. And I would preach to my students, if you really want to know a book, you have to read it more than one time. And you were just saying that you just went to watch a movie
I did.
with 2 different groups of friends.
All in one weekend.
all in one weekend. And rather than tell the second group, no, I don't want to go with you, she went ahead and went with the second group without saying a word. Not spoiling the movie, I guess. And same thing. The same thing happens. You start to get more out of it. And that's what I'm saying here to you folks. This is the first time we're asking you all to do this. If we ask you to do it again, I would encourage you all to come back again, because that collective we, that us story, will start to make more sense to all of us if we keep meeting to do this. So that eventually we get to the point where it's a story of, now what do we do? You know, you're no longer saying, now what do I got to do? Now you're saying, now what do we have to do? That's where we want to get, right? And so, Laura's going to take over at this point.
Okay, and I was eavesdropping, not on purpose, but kind of, and I heard some really cool things. Obviously, I'm not from here, so it might even have been things that you all knew, but I didn't. Let me kind of just throw out this thought before we start talking about a lot of what you all discussed. When I leave today, I took some pictures inside, took pictures of y'all, and I will take some pictures of the Fat Cat Cafe outside, and probably some other pictures downtown, and I will post about what a great day it was in Smithville, and I'll tag everybody that I can, and post some pictures, and begin to do my part in helping to tell your story. But without a comprehensive kind of a campaign where we're all using the same hashtags and that sort of thing, it will go a little, it'll give some press to the Fat Cat, it'll bring some attention to Smithville, but could it be so much more? Absolutely, it could. So this is the beginning. As Andy said, this is just the very, very beginning to where we want to take this, to get to where we are all saying, this is why you want to do business here. This is how you can play here. This is why you want to live here. This is why we want you to stop and spend some money. Spend the night, go to the gallery, eat dinner, have some wine, all of those things. And we can begin to take your story to the next level. And so that's very exciting. I mean, I heard some really cool things. Another thing that I think we heard y'all talk about is it's important for us to focus on your assets, because sometimes we don't even realize the good things we have right in front of us. And so I purposely started with this. Let's talk about the great things that you have, the things that, not what we wish we had, you already have them. So let's start there. Now, I think maybe and may not remember it, I think I heard maybe y'all say, but we don't have this, or we do, everybody's got, some gaps to fill, or some, and as I told Andy, I always say, well, maybe you don't have that yet, but you have this, and this, and that is a step towards that. And so it's not a negative, it's an opportunity. So it's not that I'm being naive and ignoring that you don't have, a convention hotel, or you don't have the Cracker Barrel, or some of the other things that you wish you had. That's not the case at all. We got to start telling the story with the assets that you have in a very positive, community-based way, and that will create enthusiasm and passion for who you are. And then if we told the community, we want everybody to adopt these couple of hashtags. We want you to begin to tell the story on your social media, in your blogs and editorials, with your network, and we want to focus on these 5 or 6 things. And that's just part of a campaign. Then people start thinking, they start reframing how they look at the community. And then when somebody asked them, just like I was asked this weekend, well, you've never heard of Smithville, I could say, and I would be telling the same story that you would, well, it's a great community. They have this, 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 and this. The people do this. This is one of their events. You know, then the story begins to flow. And that's what we want to get to. I think right now, as Andy said, there are an abundance of amazing self-stories. And so what we want to get to now is the us. Is to begin to pull those stories together, see what rises to the top collectively where we have consensus on, yeah, if we're going to have a 30-second commercial, or we're putting some on a billboard, or we're going to have a 52-week campaign on social media, these are the things that we all agree make up the fabulous community that we live in. And so, I don't know if you all pay attention to what's going on in Bryan. It's a little far away in College Station, but every year they do a campaign about their community, and they started it before the pandemic, like I think in 2018, 18 things to do in 2018 in Bryan, Texas. Well, my husband's a Longhorn, we're not A&M fans, but I like Bryan College Station, and I find myself needing to be there for meetings or whatever. So I have friends there, so I've been following this for several years now. Their campaign in 2019, they had 19 things to do in Bryan. And so now this year they're at 23 things to do in Bryan, Texas. And it runs the gamut of places to visit, places to stay, things to do, events. It's obviously I would say tourism chamber type of thing, but it's very educational to somebody who's not from Bryan, Texas. Probably very educational for people that do live in Bryan, Texas. But not too long ago, my husband and I went to a wedding in Bryan, and instead of going to the wedding and coming back, because I had been following them and they had been feeding me this really great information, we stayed the whole weekend. We stayed 2 nights instead of not staying at all. We ate in 2 or 3 restaurants that had been promoted over the years. We went to see some of the sites, went out to the winery. We had a fabulous weekend in Bryan, Texas. And we were definitely the case of, you don't know what you don't know. We had no interest in knowing. And once we learned, now we will definitely go back. We will do it again. And I just told you about it, which means anybody who did what we did will also be telling their friends. That's what we want to happen. We want it to be contagious. We want it to catch fire. We want people to start getting excited about all of these amazing things that you have. So that's why we focus on the assets first. It's not that you don't have gaps to fill and opportunities to create new things that will become an asset for your community. But first of all, let's talk about how fabulous you are, get that story told, and then we begin to strategize on, okay, what comes next after that. So if you say, well, we can't have conventions, we don't have a big hotel. Well, you don't have a big hotel yet, but you have this, this, and this, and you have Airbnbs, and you've got your boutique hotels, and maybe one of your strategies is to reach out to hotel developers. But that's all part of a plan, and that's what we want to. That's the whole purpose of this, is to begin to move the train forward. So, okay, let's start back there at the back table. Why don't you tell us 1 or 2 of the assets that you feel like you have for business development?
We have great businesses already here. We have so many of them complement each other. People who've been around for a while and both new businesses. And so I think at the end of the day, we all have kind of the same goal in mind. We all want to see our community thrive. And so I think that just having the same vision for the future is a huge asset, and we can play on that. So I think that's
Good. Did you all have something different under business development that you'd like to share?
We have a great location.
Yes.
We're not too far in and we're not too far out. Yep.
That's true.
And also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Susie. We also discussed that our city officials and our chamber is very accessible. They love to have new businesses come. There's no giant hoops to jump through, and they want them to come in. So
That's
it's very
excellent.
friendly for new business.
Very friendly. Very
Okay, I'm going to
supportive.
use that example, like I was talking about earlier. That is such an asset. But imagine the stories you could tell if you took that concept of our city, our chamber, are all very welcoming and a great helpful resource to businesses. That is the perfect time to insert testimonials into your marketing and actually talk to people that have been received assistance from, because I can tell you that doesn't happen everywhere. And so that's when either print testimonials or video testimonials, saying, look, I've done business in other places and we are here because of the support of the city and the chamber, and they're welcoming to business. That means so much to people. So much more coming from them than it does from me, the city, or the chamber, who are all paid staff, but to actually hear it from a business. So anyway, I just wanted to use that example of, man, you could do so much marketing with just that one concept.
That's a great example because my business is relatively new.
Mm-hmm.
The chiropractic business is relatively new. I mean, within the last year and a half, both of us, I can say that I was so pleasantly surprised by the support that I got from all of the businesses that have been around here for a really long time. It wasn't like I wasn't ever made to feel that I wasn't in their club. Right?
Yes.
It was, what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? The chamber did the ribbon cutting. They did a mixer there, all the things. And that, I kind of took it for granted, but you're right.
And if I brought a prospect to your community, that's who they want to hear from. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from you, the other people who have been, through the process. Otherwise, they know what we're going to say. We're going to say, oh, this community is so welcoming. They're going to go, okay, everybody says that. But to hear it from other businesses that have been through it, that is so important. So,
I mean, I can tell you.
Oh, sorry, small town charm.
Yes.
It's just amazing.
When I opened my business, I can't tell you how many people from the city called and said, hey, we have some people in town. Can we come by and show them? And I'm like, sure. Deanie did it. Jill's done it. I mean, everybody just pushed and pushed and pushed. It was amazing what they did.
that's awesome. Okay, so that's what I meant. Why I take that story a little bit further. You say you have a charming community. What makes
Small
it so?
town. Okay, for
Okay, well, what makes it so charming?
I'm going to give you a really good example,
Okay.
I think. So I am a member of the LPAA, and we have a gallery space on Main Street. And I'm near the third Friday of the month. So I'm in the store that day, and all of a sudden, down Main Street came a parade of police cars with their sirens on, the fire truck, and a school bus with the high school
Baseball.
band,
The baseball.
team. And everybody came out and they were rooting them, and you don't see that often. That's old school small town charm.
That's true. That's true. That's the kind of video that you want to push out and
We
say,
got
we
to
love
do
our
Halloween.
kids. You know,
I've got a
and
story.
we love our school.
Sure.
So,
So, as many of you guys know, Calvin is a beloved figure in town. He helps out various businesses and whatnot. He recently had an accident this past weekend where he went to the hospital and he was on a walker now. But there was a group of ladies that kind of put a text message together, and so just to try to help him out around his house.
For food.
Yeah, so trying to get like meals together and whatnot, and then so I'm going after work today and helping just declutter his place. And, but it was just a really organic, just kind of, and there was others that donated money to get him meals and stuff since he can't get out anymore and do his little side hustle business. So that's just another example.
Because
Yeah.
when you say we have a community that cares, when neighbors care for neighbors and people really care, that to go on and tell that story, that's a beautiful story, and that's the story that I'll remember. Not that you said, when you said we have a charming town. Well, there's a lot of charming towns in this country, but you added to the story, which makes me think, well, yeah, I want to live in a town that shows that kind of enthusiasm for their kids. That's awesome. And so that you all are just proving my point that begin to take your stories. That's perfect. And you don't even have to share that in marketing. That you can tell. But if people said, well, why do you live here? And you go, because people care about each other. For example, and then you share that story. Well, now you've proven it's not just rhetoric. It's real. It's real. And so that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, let's do one. We'll take one more topic. Which one? Let's see. Y'all want to talk about tourism? Anybody have some thoughts about that?
They have an incredible, I don't live here, but I
Yeah,
spend a lot of time here, but they have an incredible art community.
Yes.
So many art galleries.
I've
and
heard, yeah.
artists. But the cool thing about it is that the city, in January, they support them.
Yes.
And there's so many resources for them to open up stores.
Right.
Have their art galleries
That actually is something that when I was doing my research, that I did find information on. The program that you all did to introduce the district, the art district, that's all amazing. And that is a draw. But the opportunities to make that a draw are endless. And to begin to create events around that and to begin to promote that. So that, I look at that as a huge opportunity because you've already done it. A lot of communities are saying we need more arts and culture. Yes, you do, because that's important to people these days. It's very important to quality of life. But, some have done it, some haven't. You have. That's something that makes you special and different. A community this size, to have that many galleries, that many artists, that much talent, all in one place, you really can and should make that one of your milestones of your marketing. That's amazing. So who wants to share any thoughts that you had? Or did you learn something new today that maybe you hadn't thought about before, or that you took for granted before you talked about it being an asset?
I think we had this discussion before, I think the thing that does not get discussed enough in our town is our medical facility. People don't know what our medical facility does. And I don't know, that's probably on them to market themselves more, but you can get anything done in Smithville. You don't have to leave
Imaging
town.
and
Yes, everything. So I think that's kind of sad to me. That's not pushed more. You don't have to go into Austin. It's right here.
Right. That's good. That's good. Andy, do you have anything you would like to add? Jill, do you have anything you would like to add?
Is it time to wrap up? What time is it
Well,
now?
it's 5 till 1.
Okay.
So I want each table to think of something that you want me to know that I did not know about Smithville before I came in today.
There's live music probably every weekend, somewhere in town.
Yep.
I love that. We search for live music every weekend.
There is live music every there's not something's wrong, but there's some facility has music going on.
Smithville has a train that you can rent for personal parties and stuff too.
Like
That'll
you
take
tour the
around
whole
West
West
Rec
Center.
Center. That'll take you around.
That's
town.
amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. I
It's
didn't
not
know that.
expensive either.
We have over 40, or I said over 40, but somebody knows how many Airbnbs in this town.
Okay.
How many are there?
I didn't know
I
that
don't know.
either.
I don't know
But
total.
there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Central has a community clinic where it's free healthcare for those who are less fortunate or can't afford healthcare. And it's the only one in the county, so it's really special that we
It's
have
medical,
100%
it's
free.
dental, it's
That's amazing,
medical,
you
dental.
guys. Okay, you guys, finish strong. What's something I don't know about from this table?
Well, as far as transportation, Smithfield's got the only airport in Bastrop County.
Look at you guys in 20 seconds. Look at all of the stuff that you just said about your community that I didn't know before I came in, that most people probably don't know, and that the people that live here probably take for granted. Those are the things that every single one of those was excellent. That is what we want to do. We want to begin to capture the magic of who you are. And we don't have to create it because it already exists. We just have to articulate it and push it out into the world.
We have public transportation into Austin. We have a bus stop.
That's amazing.
We actually pretty much rock.
You guys rock. You really do.
Smithfield has a Veterans Memorial Park.
Yes.
And that's where I was that's why I'm late, my excuse for being late today. We are having a Memorial Day service on the 29th, starting at 9 o'clock, 9 to 11. We're going to be unveiling something very, very special. It's going to be a great addition to the park.
Really?
So everybody please come.
On the 29th?
Yes, ma'am, 29th.
That's neat.
Monday the 29th, Memorial Day.
That's excellent. Well, if you are so inclined, you do not have to. You can take these with you, but if you wanted to leave them behind, any of your notes, we will appreciate them. Or if you could shoot us a picture of them, send it to Jill. And then also, at your convenience, just jot some things down on the homework, because those are also things we want you to be thinking about. But in just, in only an hour and a half time, this is, what we could do today, but we wanted to get you thinking in a little different way. And what a way to finish, 20 seconds, and you gave me all those great stories just like that. That's going to make my post afterwards a little bit different. I might even string it out, do a whole series of them, but that's what I'm talking about, y'all. That's all stuff. That's great stuff. So let's put it all together, put a bow on it, and start telling the world about it. How's that? Thank you so much for lunch. It was good. Jill, thank you for hosting. Andy, thank you for your remarks. And thank you all for all that you do.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
being here.
Absolutely.
We'll see.